Hello, my name is Xonevant. Today is Thursday, February the 20th, and this is your Daily Dose. Alright, so today's fan question is from Vatsal Patel, and he asked, have you ever had a game that you did not like at first, but when you played it again, you really enjoyed it? Now this is a pretty interesting question because normally when I don't like a game the first time, I never play it again. That typically is how it works for me. If the storyline is not good, if I'm not compelled to play it like the first time, in other words, if I find myself just going through the motions just to get to the end of the game, I never go back and play it again. Like, that's usually the case. And a good example of this is Final Fantasy Lightning Returns. You guys know I just tried to cover that on the channel. Just wasn't feeling that game, man. I just wasn't. It was kind of boring to me. Chances are that may be the only Final Fantasy game that I'll never complete, because I have completed all the other ones except for the PC version, the online one. I haven't done that yet. I didn't beat 13-2. I haven't beat that one yet, but I'm pretty sure that I will go back and beat that one. It was okay, but 13 Lightning Returns, probably will never go back and play that game at all. Now with that said, there is an exception, and this is going to be the answer to your question. Back in the day, obviously I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan. Final Fantasy VII came out and was just blown away by that game, dude. Absolutely blown away, loved it. I think I beat it. The first time I got it, I beat it within like a week or something like that, and I didn't really do 100%, but then in the next 3 weeks or so, I did 100% on it, got everything in the game, and since then I've beaten that game probably once every year, except for the last couple of years because I've been so busy, but I've beaten it at least 7 or 8 times minimum. It just always gets me, right? It's that game for me. It's one of my favorite games of all time. But then you look at what came out after that game, Final Fantasy VIII. Now when this game came out, I got it on day one, brung it to the house, had my chips and my drink and all my stuff set up, and I sat down and I started to play it, and I got about 6 or 7 hours into it, and I was like, this isn't Final Fantasy VII. You know what I mean? I think that Final Fantasy VIII was kind of tainted because of Final Fantasy VII. If you were a huge fan of Final Fantasy VII, when you played 8, and maybe this isn't for everybody, but this is how I felt, I was like, this just is not on the same level. Like, it's not the same standard that was set for Final Fantasy VII. So immediately I was turned off by the game, was not impressed, and I went through and I didn't beat it at first. Like, normally I just put a Final Fantasy game down, I'll do marathon sessions and I'll just go through it and I'll beat it. That was the first game in the history of the Final Fantasy franchise where I didn't just plow through it, you know what I mean? In fact, I remember the night that I actually beat it. You guys know him on YouTube as VGM Professor. He actually came to my house and was like my moral support. He had actually been through the game before and I hadn't. And I was like, dude, if I don't have somebody come over here and just hang out with me while I play this game, I'm never going to go through it, because it was just that boring for me to play. So I was like, come over, hang out. I think he brought over some chips and dip that his mom made. It was freaking fabulous. And we set that up in the room and everything, and we just ate and had a good time, and I was able to play it. He was actually playing a game. We had 2 systems set up, so he was playing a game, I was playing a game, and I eventually got through it that night, and I told myself, I'm never going to play this again. In fact, he'll tell you, while we were actually playing the game and we were in the last boss fight, I was like, I will never, as soon as this boss dies, as soon as all the health hits 0, and I see the cutscene, I will never play this game ever again. So then you fast forward 8 to 10 years later. I don't know exactly how long it was since I played it the second time, but I played it and absolutely loved it the second time around. I guess it was because that Final Fantasy VII standard wasn't quite as relevant when I played it the second time, you know what I mean? That effect had kind of worn off, and I loved it the second time. Totally understood everything, right? Totally understood the GF system and the way that you drew spells off of enemies and you refined magic and all that kind of stuff. I think the first time I played, I didn't even really realize that you could actually refine magic. I was sitting there drawing magic off of every enemy in the game, and it was taking forever. So just stuff like that. I mean, when I get to a point in the game where I'm not liking the game anymore, I just start going through the motions. I stop paying attention to the game, and I overlook things that are right in front of me just because I'm turned off by the game so much. And I don't want to put it down, like I don't want to not play it, but I'll sit there and play it as almost, it's a chore, I guess. And that's when you know that a game is just, you should just put the game down. You see what I mean? But the second time around, man, I loved it. And to this day, I love it. You know, and then I played 9, and obviously that was great. So I think it was just because I had played Final Fantasy VII and moved right into Final Fantasy VIII. And that's why I was not impressed, because I was using Final Fantasy VII as a standard, and it taught me to look at every game as an individual game. You know, even if it's a sequel to a game, sometimes you still have to look at it as its own game, you know what I mean? You know, it's kind of hard when you're looking at a big franchise like a Final Fantasy franchise, but if you can ever do it, it definitely makes the difference. Alright, so that wraps it up for today's show. Thanks again for the question. A link to his channel will be in the description below. And we got some Dark Souls going on, people. I got yesterday's show was about Dark Souls. I got the trailer up for Dark Souls 2. Check it out. Sub of the day's on the screen. Links on the screen as well as in the description below. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. And remember, if you even miss one dose. Do you think it's possible for a human to fit inside of a dishwasher? But not just a normal dishwasher. It doesn't shoot out water. It shoots out acid. Just a thought.